Hey beautiful people, what is up and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila and I love all things beauty. I love all things makeup. I love all things skincare. And I especially love sharing my tips and tricks for how to find high-end and luxury beauty products at bargain prices. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I would absolutely love if you would consider subscribing and joining the fam. Okay, so I have a really cool video for you guys because I picked up the new Byredo Remembrance palette. I was like, what is this called? Now, here's the thing. I picked this up on Bergdorf and it suddenly disappeared, and quite frankly, I feel like this wasn't supposed to release yet, so I got it on accident because I have not been able to find it on the Byredo website. I have not been able to find it on other retailers like Neiman, Saks, all of those retailers that typically will carry this product. So as of right now, you can't purchase it, so I won't have it linked down below, but if it does become available, I will update, my description box and, make a community tab post so that you guys can shop this if you're interested in it. That being said, I was happy that I was able to get it on this glitch or early, because I do think that it is a product that at first glance is kind of like, is that going to work for me? Do you want it? Do I not want it? I think it takes seeing some reviews to decide if you want to pick it up. Now, I did decide to pick it up because I did pick up the Flora Kalahari version from last year, which you can see the packaging is very similar. These are limited edition palettes. In terms of value, the Byredo palettes are extremely expensive. And these, and that's their normal, like Quince, the 5-pan palettes. And these offer a lot more shades with a high price, but given the amount of shades for the price, it actually works out to be a better value than trying to buy the single Byredo little palettes. So I was really okay with picking it up. Now, this is going to be a first impressions video, so you're going to see 2 looks from me, and then I'm going to give you just sort of overarching thoughts on the palette. I will also include some swatches that I did, so I won't be doing live swatches, but I'll insert some of the swatches that I did of the palette so you can see what it looks like on my skin tone. Now, without further ado, let's dive into it. So here we have the Remembrance package. As you can see, it is a reflective packaging with this sort of statue-like figure on top. So it is very fingerprinty, but it's very, very easy to wipe off. Now the package, oops, sorry about the reflection. Now the palette actually does come in a box like it did last year, so it really does kind of like slide out and fit right here. Like I said, this did release early, so I can't go back to the Bergdorf website and find any of the details from there, but there are some details on the box, so this is where I'm going to give you guys most of the product details. So on the back of the box, it does have the ingredients listed. It does say that this was made in Italy. It is an 18-pan eyeshadow palette, and you get 30 grams of product. And it also has a 12-month shelf life. Now for the palette itself, like you guys saw, this is the front. On the back, which is equally reflective, you do have all of the shades here. They are listed as numbers, so there are no actual shade names. And then when you open up the palette, this is the color story. I know, boring, it's a neutral palette. I love neutral palettes, say what you want. But it is a really beautiful neutral palette. You do get some, straight neutral shades, a little bit of warmer shades, a little bit of more peachy shades, and you do get some silvers in there as well. So this is the color story. And like I said, it is an 18-pan eyeshadow palette. And you guys can already see that there's not like a crazy amount going on as it relates to like the textures and stuff in this palette. So it's not my like typical indie review, which is fine, So now that you guys have seen the palette and I've given you all the details that I can, let's dive into these swatches so you can see what they look like on my skin tone. For reference, I consider myself a medium deep complexion with a yellow or golden undertone. So let's dive into those swatches and then we'll dive into the looks. Walking up to the hotel bar. Lastly, I want to show you guys it compared to the palette from last year. So like I said, the palette last year was the Flora Kalahari palette. Similar packaging, except the imaging on front is a rose, but it has the same sort of color details in the back. I want to show you guys the difference in color story in case you had this one and you were wondering if it might be duplicative. So this is the Flora Kalahari palette. And as you can see, it definitely leans pretty neutral. This definitely has more shimmers in it though. So here we have the Remembrance up against the Flora Kalahari palette. So I hope you guys can see some of the differences in here. This one, obviously, or the Flora Kalahari version, gives you a lot more variety. You get some of the neutral shades, you get a blue, you get some greens, even a really, really nice red. And they are like both cool and warm mattes. Overall, this one definitely has more shimmers compared to mattes, so not the most versatile. This one has a greater number of mattes in it, but also it's pretty just neutral, so it doesn't have as much variety as the Flora Kalahari version. I like both of these. I think that each has their place, and they are limited edition palettes, so they're meant to be kind of like a collector's edition kind of thing. Okay, so my eyes are ready to go. So let's go ahead and dive into this baby. Honestly, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm tempted to use the silver because I don't wear silver eyeshadow, like, ever. But no, we're not going to do the silver today. So I think what I'm going to do is I want to play in at least this shimmer and this shimmer. This is going to be my second look using this. I didn't film my first look, so this isn't necessarily a first impression. It's like a second impressions, and maybe you guys will get a third look. But I really want to play in this sort of pinky shade and this coppery shade because I did use this gold shade and this deep shade before, and it's really, really nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go in with shade 11 as my transition shade. Really nice pickup. You guys know with most palettes, or with how I typically like to do my shadow, these are the types of transition shades that I prefer for my complexion because they look the most natural on me. They just kind of like create the best gradient because it's so close to my skin tone that I can use it to blend everything out really nicely. So that's what I always like to look for, whether it's a sort of peachy or more brown and more neutral. Definitely this sort of depth, and that is going on really nicely. Now, you guys are used to seeing me do pretty bold, colorful looks using like my Blend Bunny palettes or indie shadows, which have a lot of pigment to it. And one, partly that's because those shadows are pressed pigments. So pressed pigments have, by definition, more pigment to them. They're technically not safe for the US, but the US is just behind on that and many other things, but we're not gonna get into that. So this look, I say all that to say this look might feel and look a little bit different and a little bit softer, but that is the intent. That is sort of how these palettes are designed. Quite frankly, that's how a lot of luxury palettes are designed, and by that I mean like the Chanel's, the Tom Ford, the Givenchy, the Guerlain. Those types of palettes tend to be, and I found that with like the, what are they called? Like legacy brands, they're softer. They're designed to not necessarily stand out and call too much attention to the eye. It's meant to give that subtle, like flawless, elegant look without looking over the top. So I say all that to say, this look isn't gonna be crazy poppy because that's just how these shadows are. So that doesn't mean they're bad shadows by any means. Next up, I'm taking my Morphe E2 brush, and I'm gonna go into this shade here. This is number 16. And I should have said this in the intro, but there are no shade names. They're just numbers, and they're listed on the back of the palette. That first shade was number 11. So I'm using that shade to slightly deepen up the crease. This is gonna be a real simple, everyday, quick 5-10 minute look. And then taking that same brush, I'm going to go into the dark brown. That is the deepest shade in the palette, and that is shade 12. Sorry, taking the same brush. So I'm going to use that to start deepening up the outer corner. Now you can already see that that is giving me pretty decent depth. And it is somewhat buildable. And I say somewhat because there's only so far you can go with this palette in these types of formulas. So I'm not gonna get like crazy depth in this. Now that therefore means that if you are deeper than me, if you have a deeper complexion or deeper skin tone, you might feel like this palette is lacking the depth that you need. Now I do think the other shades tend to range in that sort of mid-tone range, so they work really well as crease shades, transition shades, in my opinion. But we only really have this one dark brown as a deepening shade. If you need to get more depth, you're going to have to go into another palette for either a deeper brown or get a black from somewhere and use that to deepen up any of these shadows. But I do think that the depth is not 100% there. So I'm just continuing to pack that shade on just to see how much depth we can get. I don't want to go too far in trying to like add much color to this look. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of cleaning up. My blending isn't exactly great, but we'll get there, okay? Okay, for the shimmers, I'm gonna start with the copper shade. So I'm just gonna dip my finger into this. These shadows are so soft, you guys. Oh my gosh. And I'm gonna just apply that to the center of the lid. Now you could go in with a brush with these shades, but it does take a little bit of time to build from what I saw when I first applied these shadows using a brush. And I'm in a bit of a rush this morning, so I'm just going in with my finger. And you can see it's really just like glimmers on the eye. So not that sparkly, crazy pigmented indie shimmer, which I've said before, there's a time and place for that. And for me specifically in my work setting, there are some places where I just can't wear that level of shimmery shadow. So this is something that I would go for. This is something that I would use. And that's where I get the most use out of like my Tom Ford quads and some of my more luxury boutique, not boutique, but fashion house brands, because that's where it just works best. Okay, and then lastly, I'm gonna go into the pink shade, which is 16. Yes, so that's 16. The first shade that I went into was shade number 5. The first shimmer shade, I should say. So I'm taking the pink shade. This is 16. This is number 5. So you can see the pink one has a little bit more texture to it. And I'm gonna put that into the inner part, blending that into that copper shade. So we're gonna get a little bit of a gradient per se. And I'm using my fingers for all of this, which is obviously, you guys can see, quite messy and imprecise, but you know how we do over here. We will go in with a brush and clean things up and make it just a little bit sharper, a little bit cleaner. But just for laying down the shadows, this is fine. So you can kind of see the difference in sparkle in those two shades, with the pink one having just a little bit more texture to it, but overall still both very, very soft shades. I feel like if you're watching this, you're underwhelmed. And I'm sorry, like, but this is just the type of palette that it is. You're not gonna get anything crazy with it. So I'm sorry if you're disappointed by this. I really like it so far. I think it's nice. I think there's a time and place for shadows like these. But I could understand if this is not your aesthetic, it's just not your aesthetic. And you guys have been, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that the vast majority of looks that I do aren't necessarily this kind of soft vibe. But I do have a soft side. Okay, so I've laid down the shadows. This is pretty much what the look is going to be like. I have my Refa number 28 brush. It is a sort of flat, short brush, and I'm going to use that to just clean up the edges, make sure I pack shadows wherever there may be some sparse places, and just clean things up so we have a more cohesive, hold together look. So I just picked up some of the pink shadow, and I'm sort of carving out the lines here for that, so it's nice and clean. Leave someone who's gone. I can't leave someone who's gone. So cruel when we're face to face. Great. And once I've gotten the pink to where I need it to be, I'm actually just gonna flip that brush over, use the clean side to pick up the copper shade, and do the same thing. Okay, Okay, so the shimmers are laid down really nicely. I'm just going to go back in with my matte shades and start blending everything together to help minimize any harsh lines. So I'm taking that brush that has the deepest shade on it, just blending the edges so that it blends into the shimmers really well. And then when I'm done, taking the first brush that I had, which had the transition shade, the beautiful sort of brown, warm brown shade, and I'm blending the top of the shadow so that we have that gradient going down and everything looks just a little bit more seamless put together. Now I haven't added any additional shadow to any of these brushes, so I'm just using what's left over to blend those pieces together. Okay, so this is it. These are the eyes. I'm gonna go ahead, add some mascara, some liner, finish up the rest of my face, and I'll come back to show you guys the final look. Okay, I'm back, and this is the final look, and I really like it. Like, it's hella understated. Like, I will give you guys that for sure. But I like that sometimes. Like, I don't think every time it has to be a crazy, super sparkly, indie, high shine look. And these are some of the looks that I love the most because they just look like effortless and classic and timeless, and it goes with everything. So overall, so far, happy with this. I do want to do one more look for you guys, so I have 3 looks using this because I really want to play in those silvers. Like, silver is not a color that I go for regularly because I have such a warm undertone to my skin and I'm really yellow. I don't love how silver looks on me. Like, if you've noticed, if you watched my channel for a while, if you've watched me for a while, you know that I don't wear silver jewelry. So I'm always wearing gold for a reason. So the fact that they are like these 2 silver shades, and one is extremely metallic and one is a really nice topper, I kind of want to see what happens when I put it on my eyes. So I want to give you guys one more look to try it out and see. Before we transition into that other look, just for context, I am wearing the Bite Change Makeup Foundation mixed in with the La Mer Foundation because both of those shades aren't great by themselves, but together they work okay. So I mixed both of those together. I'm using my LYS bronzer, my Sydney Grace blush from their new face palette. It's in the deep face palette, so I'm using that blush. I'm also using the Charlotte Tilbury, what is this, Superstar Glow highlighter. This was a limited edition product, and I don't know, she might be on the chopping block. I'm not impressed with it. It's not bad, but I don't think it's anything to write home about. But yeah, this is the Charlotte Tilbury highlighter. And for my lips, because this is such like a chill everyday look, I actually went in with my Blend Bunny lip oil. So I went in with the Blend Bunny lip oil. This is in the shade Love Bite, and then I went over that with my Fenty Gloss Bomb. So this is the combo that I'm wearing. I thought about doing a lipstick, but again, this is kind of like, I prefer lip glosses, and this is kind of meant to be like a chill look. So that's what I'm going for. So that's this face. All right, let's dive into one other look. Okay, I'm back, and as I promised you guys, I'm gonna be doing a second look. I really want to focus on the silvers, like I said, because I don't really wear silver a lot. So let's see how they will look on me. Okay, so the first shade I'm actually gonna go into is shade number 9. That is actually the lightest matte in the palette, and I just want to see what it will do. I'm suspecting nothing, but you know, don't know till you try. So I'm using that as my crease or transition shade, and yeah, it's not really doing much of anything, which I kind of expected, but this would be a good blend out shade. Let me drop in my brush all over the place, Jesus. And honestly, I don't know what I'm going for. Well, I kind of do, but I don't think it's gonna look the way that I want it to, but I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, then I'm gonna go into this shade. It's number 17. And I'm going to deepen up the crease. Dark thoughts trying to bring me down. It is literally like 85 degrees in my apartment. I'm waiting for maintenance to come fix it. Like, it's hot as hell. I'm like sweating. And I have 2 fans on me. I can't live like this, y'all. which is partly why this is about to be the quickest look you've ever seen me do, because I need to like go outside. It's crazy that outside is cooler than inside my apartment. Just ghetto. Straight ghetto. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. My allergies are a hot mess today. Today's just not the day, y'all. But it is Thursday. It is Thursday, so we are approaching the weekend. Hallelujah. Then I'm gonna go into the deepest shade. I'm taking my Sonia G Wicker brush, and I'm actually just gonna put that all over the lid. This is applying beautifully. Like sometimes I'll use a Sonia G brush and then I'm reminded why Sonia G is Sonia G. He waves back and forth, likes to mess around. Okay, love how that's going. I'm going back in with the second brush that I used. I'm just blending out the edges. Okay, and then I think I know what I want to do now. I'm gonna go into the last shade in the palette. It's this deep, beautiful, like red. It's number 18, and I'm taking the same Sonia G brush that I took that matte up with, picking up some of that, and I'm gonna start to give myself a little bit of a halo. Didn't think I was gonna do a halo eye today, but here we are. Won't let it pull me under. Yeah. It's actually laying down really nicely over that matte. So again, I'm creating a halo, so I'm putting it on the inner and the outer part of the eye over the matte that we laid down. One thing I'm not doing with this, but what I like about these types of shimmers, is that these shimmers are so soft that you could actually blend them out and use them as matte shimmers. Like you can, well, not matte shimmers, but you can use them as like how you would typically use a matte, like in the crease and whatnot, because it doesn't have the same amount of sparkle and texture, so you can actually use them as both like a shimmery shade as well as like a matte shade. Okay, it's definitely giving smoky, which I don't think I was planning for smoky, but here we are. And then lastly, I'm gonna dip my finger into this silver shade. This is a toppery silver. You can see it's just like flecks of silver. This is this silver, which is the metallic. So you have the very metallic silver and the very toppery silver. So you see that? Oh my god, they're both so beautiful. I don't even like silver. So I'm going into the topper shade, and I'm actually going to plop that into the center where I kind of left some of that lid space for this halo. Actually really pretty. Even though it's a topper, I think it still has pretty nice depth to it. Now, I'll admit this look is a little chaotic. Not necessarily my best wig, but just rock with me. Okay, here's what the eyes are looking like. Not my greatest wig. I'll give y'all that 100%. But I'm gonna blend, try to clean things up, make it look a little bit more cohesive, a little bit less chaotic. And I'll come back, show you guys the final look. And I feel like I'm drowning. And I feel like I'm drowning. And I feel like I'm drowning. I'm drowning, but I can swim. I can swim just a little longer. Okay, so I'm back and this is the final look. Y'all, I saved this. Okay, so here's what happened, and this has nothing to do with the shadow, but essentially the whole halo eye thing wasn't working out, so I just decided to take that silver shade and really just top it over the entire lid to give this effect, whatever you want to call it. Now this is definitely a more smoky eye, but at the end of the day I still like how this turned out. It just needed a little bit of finagling, and this wasn't necessarily the fault of the shadow. Quite frankly, I don't wear silver eyeshadow enough, and this might not have been the right color combination. Like I've said in previous videos, there are rules to makeup. Like you can't just slap something on your face and be like, well, this and this has to look good. Like their color theory, all of those things make sense, all of those things matter. So I'm definitely not blaming the shadow for what I was doing, because I didn't really know what to expect, because I don't wear silver shadow like that and very often. So take that however you will. Now let me give you guys my thoughts on the palette itself. Okay. So the Remembrance palette from Byredo, and this is now available on the Byredo website, so I will link that down below, so you guys have all that information if you're interested in shopping it. Overall, I really like this palette. I think that this is just a simple, easy, breezy, everyday, neutral, perfect for those people who want to wear something on their lids but don't want too much sparkle or impact, just want like a nice dusting, almost like a no makeup kind of vibe. This is who I think this is for. In terms of the quality of the shadows, they're very soft, they're lightweight, they're buttery, and I really appreciate that formula, because sometimes it can be too powdery, sometimes it can be too creamy. I think that this is like the perfect consistency. I really like that buttery, soft texture to it, because it just applied really easily, it blended really easily, and it just looked really lightweight on the eyes. Now, does this have the depth that I think it needs? For me, yes, but I do think it doesn't go deep enough. Like this shade looks a lot richer in the pan than it actually does translate on the eyes. Like, I mean, right now I do have a little bit of depth going on, but I do think that I am not that far on the spectrum, because there are so many people that are deeper than me. Like I've told you guys before, I consider myself to be a medium deep complexion with a golden undertone. So there's deep and then there's dark and like super rich, and I'm not there. And I do think that for some people that are going to be deeper than me, this isn't going to go deep enough. Now, if you are fine with not having depth in a palette, I think that's okay. I don't think every look has to have depth, but my personal preference is making sure that there is at least the option to have depth, and I think that it could have gone a little bit deeper. As for the lighter shades, I really like them. I think that they all work really well as transition shades to me. Now this shade is more of a base or blend out shade for my complexion. Like it's what I can use to set my lids or to blend out any of the other shades, but I'm fine with that because it's literally one shade out of the other matte, so I have no issues there. In terms of the matte to shimmer ratio, I also think that this is really nice. When I looked at it compared to the Flora Kalahari palette, I realized that that one has a lot more shimmers, and I think that this one is just a little bit more balanced in the matte to shimmer ratio. So I'm really happy with the amount of shimmers to mattes. Now, are there some redundancies in this palette? I do think so. I particularly think that these two matte shades are very close to each other and may not have been necessary. I know some people will look at the two silvers and be like, oh yeah, that's the same shade. But if you saw from the swatch, one is a metallic and one is a topper. So I do think that the difference is there and it's important. I think that for the shimmers specifically, they are very, very different. And it might look like a little redundant in the pan, but they are very, very different. It's only really these two mattes that I feel like are kind of close in terms of shades. Overall, I think this is a great addition. I think for the value, and I'm saying that knowing that this is a $105 palette, but considering what other Byredo palettes cost and you get significantly less shades, I think that the value is here with this palette. It's a great collector's piece, and it's just perfect if you are someone that really, really enjoys neutral shadows. So I really like this. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing with it. I really like the soft looks I was able to create with this. But again, that is honestly and truly a preference thing. And when I do my reviews, I like to make sure I talk about the difference between preference and quality. Just because it doesn't give you that high impact wet in the super crazy sparkly look does not mean that it's bad quality. So I think that this is excellent quality. I've enjoyed wearing it. I think that it wears well. It doesn't fade or look terrible at the end of the day. It's just giving you a softer look, and that is just a preference thing. So I like it. I'm really glad to have it. I hope that this was helpful for you. I specifically hope that this was helpful for folks that are of deeper complexions, because I know it can be a struggle for us to find comparisons on our skin tones. So I hope that this gives you a sense of what it might look like on your skin tone if you are my complexion. All right, that is it for me, guys. Now I want to hear from you. Let me know if you plan on picking this up. This is a limited edition palette, and these do tend to sell out and they don't exactly come back. So let me know if you plan on picking this up, if you're interested in it, if you're not interested, why aren't you interested, or why are you interested? Leave all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already done so, I would absolutely love if you would consider subscribing and joining the fam. We have a time here. So yeah, subscribe, hit the little red button, ring the bell. You know the drill. And that's it for me. As always, I appreciate you guys so much more than you know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. We're so close to 3K, guys. So close. As always, I will catch you guys in my next one. Bye.